Welcome back to Parents Corner. I want to thank you all for your grace over these past few weeks as I've been recovering from COVID. I've had some really good days, I've had some not so good days, and so I haven't always been able to do my videos. I haven't been able to do Parents Corner for quite a while because of my cough, which I do still have, and so I may be taking some sip breaks throughout the message today just so I can keep from coughing. And I am so glad to be back and for the most part feeling better. So thank you so much. And I'm so happy to be back and sharing a message with you today. So let's start with our scripture for actually the last couple of weeks and this week. I want to kind of do something that incorporates what we've learned the last few weeks and what we're talking about this week because I feel like it's all very relevant and I haven't done a parents corner to talk about the last couple of weeks and I think that it's necessary to do so. So we're going to start with the scripture. It's from it's the book of Matthew, chapter 4, verse 23 through chapter 5, verse 3. Jesus went through Galilee, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the good news of the kingdom and curing every disease and every sickness from among the people. So his fame spread all throughout Syria, and they brought to him all the sick, those who were afflicted with various diseases and pains, demoncies, which means they're possessed by demons, epileptics, paralytics, and he cured them all. And great crowds followed him from Galilee, the Decapolis, Jerusalem, Judea, and from beyond the Jordan. I mean, people from everywhere. And when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up to the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him. And then he began to speak and taught them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." So we're in the third week of this unit on the Beatitudes. And our first 2 weeks focused on the background of what was happening during Jesus' time when he's giving this sermon on the mountain here. And, Jesus lived in this society where the wealthy were the only ones that had any kind of power. And they would make these political decisions to make sure that they stayed in power and became more wealthy. And meanwhile, the poor were marginalized and kept poor. There was no path for the poor to get out of poverty in that society. Back then, if you were born into a certain class, you died in that same class. As you can imagine, this is incredibly disheartening to those who were born poor. And we also have to keep in mind that the Jewish people in Jesus' time, which the Jewish people is who Jesus was mostly talking to, they were surrounded by a culture that worshipped several different gods. And any fortune or wealth that a person has is seen as a blessing from the gods. So if you have power, you're blessed. If you don't have power, you're obviously not blessed or potentially even cursed. Now, again, this has got to be really hard for people living in poverty. They're poor, so they're not blessed. They may even be cursed. And then Jesus comes along and he completely flips the script. He leads a group of followers up the mountain and explains how they are blessed, even though their culture tells them that they're not. And our focus for this week with the kids is blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Now, this was a truly revolutionary statement for Jesus to be making. The idea that the poor of anything can have a kingdom, that's completely unfathomable in Jesus' time. So this leads to a good question for us to ask and for them to ask, what does poor in spirit mean? And I think, a simple answer for us today is that poor in spirit are those who've been kind of pushed to the side, those who've been marginalized, those whose voices are silenced. People who are fighting so hard to be heard and they're tired. They're tired of fighting. They just want to be heard. Now, we could go down a lot of rabbit holes here. We could talk about a lot of current events that are happening in culture in our country right now because there are a lot of people in our culture today who are poor in spirit. But our focus is Parents Corner and we're talking about our kids. So we're going to talk about our kids. And I think that our kids are some of those people who are poor in spirit. I just have to look at my own family. I think of all the times that my kids want to tell me something or show me something and my response is, well, not right now, later. Just please, I'm busy. Don't talk to me. And, sometimes that later, it never comes Now, there are times that I have to say these things for very practical reasons. Some of you have watched my videos where my kids are coming in and they want to show me a video while I'm filming. Of course, there's an appropriate time to tell them that they need to wait. Children need to learn these boundaries. They need to learn when it is appropriate to speak, to share, to to be part of the conversation. But we need to make sure and we need to be careful that we are not silencing them in the process of teaching these boundaries. We need to make sure that we're giving them this opportunity to speak when it is appropriate and teaching them that when it is appropriate for them to speak, we want to hear what they have to say. And that's just at home. Imagine what happens out in the community. You know, a lot of you probably grew up with the saying, children should be seen and not heard. How horrible is that? What does that tell the children when they hear that they're supposed to be there, but they can't be part of the conversation? They can't speak. They can't have a voice in the conversation. How are children supposed to learn appropriate interactions if all we do is shove them off to the side to sit in silence? So I really think that children are definitely some of those who are poor in spirit as they deal with a society trying to silence them. And that's why Jesus' message that they are blessed is so inspiring to them. And we can live out this blessing with our children and with the children we see out and about. We can share this blessing by acknowledging their voice, even acknowledging their presence. A simple smile and a wave in the grocery store is enough to boost a child's spirit. Now, I know a lot of you are like, well, we're wearing masks. They can't see our smile. But your face, your whole face changes when you smile. The shape of your eyes, the glint of your forehead, everything changes when you smile. And it's still possible for people to detect a smile even when you have a mask on. So a smile and a wave in a grocery store to the kids that are there. It's a hard time. And just acknowledging them and just, hi. And then go on your business. You don't need to interact with them. You don't need to break social distancing rules. You just need to acknowledge them. Also giving our children a voice at home. Of course, as we talked about, at appropriate times and teaching them those appropriate times. But that makes a huge difference to boost their spirit. And we can also help our children learn to listen to the marginalized voices that they see around them. There's always a couple of kids that are at school that are outcast. And we can help our children recognize these patterns and teach them how to reach out to those kids. They don't have to be BFFs. They don't have to, put themselves in a vulnerable position. Again, something as small as a smile and a kind word is a great place to start to show other kids, to help our kids show other kids that they're seen and that they are loved. Not just by us, but by God too. Spreading kindness is such a simple thing for us and our kids to do. And they're going to learn that from us. I'm preaching to myself here just as much as I am to you. I have to remember that when I say things disparaging about other people, when I say, oh my gosh, this person is driving so slow, but my kids are hearing that. They're not hearing me loving that other person. They're hearing me complaining about that other person. And I know I need to work on that too. But we can model this behavior of kindness towards our kids themselves and towards others, and our kids will see that and they will start to follow that same pattern, and they will start to do that, and they will start to spread God's love in very simple ways that really make a big difference. So that is our responsibility. That is something that I'm going to work on, and I want you to work on. I want you to help your kids work on, is spreading love and spreading kindness.